Namaste and good evening, everyone. So we will just wait for a couple of minutes for other peoples to join. I welcome you all to this wonderful session on bioacoustics. So we have our speaker, Dr. Vineeth Kumar today. So Vineeth Kumar is an amphibian ecologist whose work chiefly emphasizes urbanization and its impact on the amphibians. He's also interested in bioacoustic studies of amphibians. He's also an avid bird watcher and wildlife photographer. So Dr. Vineeth Kumar has written a book on birds of Nitte University campus, also has discovered two new species of spider from Indian subcontinent. Currently, he is working as a senior faculty in zoology at St. Mary's ISE Chikmagalur. Over to you, sir. So you can take over the session now.
Yeah, thank you, Divya. Just to correct, I've discovered two species of frogs, not spider. So I work on amphibians mainly. Thank you, Divya.
Sorry. Okay.
Yeah, not a problem. So can you see the projection? What's happening here? Participants, can you please let me know whether my voice is audible and also the presentation is visible to you?
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
visible.
Okay, thank you very much. So, dear participants, welcome you to this session. It's a certificate course, also as a webinar on bioacoustics in amphibian research. And I have been very passionate about sounds of animals in general, and more specific about the sounds of anorans, that is, the frogs and toads. You know that frogs play a very important role in ecological research and also its indicator species. Studying them is very essential at this point of time. Okay, and also sounds of animals also play a very important role in overall stability of species on this planet, because communication is very important for the very survival of every single species on this planet. And you know that birds, uh, frogs, and as well as some insects also are known to produce sounds, and also some mammals, of course. So only few vertebrates and also few invertebrates are known to make unique sounds of calls. And one of the highly acoustically active or vocalizing a group of vertebrates is amphibians. So let's understand what is an amphibian first. Then let us move on to the bioacoustics part of it. Okay. So generally, I ask, what is an amphibian with the participants? So if anybody knows, you can answer it. Otherwise, I'll move ahead. Anybody in this talk knows what is an amphibian? Divya, is there an option to for them to answer, or what is it?
Yes, sir, they can. They can unmute themselves and
Okay.
answer.
Yeah, please feel free. Means this should be an interactive type of workshop, because you're learning when you interact, right? So can anybody tell me what is an amphibian before I start?
Having
An animal which can survive both on land and water.
Okay, fantastic. That's what I was expecting. So as we have learned from our school and high school lectures that something that lives on water and land is an amphibian, right? But is that definition truly correct? Let's see that. So what is an amphibian? Something that lives, as Gagan mentioned just now, it's something that lives both on land and water is an amphibian. So that means these also are amphibians? Of course, no, right? So amphibians, literally, the meaning of this is you can split this word into two words actually. Amphi meaning two, bios means life. Sorry, yeah, amphi means two and bios means life. So which means they have two life stages. So an organism which has two distinctive life stages in which there's a young stage called as tadpole and an adult stage which is either a frog, toad, or a salamander or Sicilian is called as an amphibian. So from here onwards, please understand something which has a very unique life. That is, two life stages is an amphibian, not something that lives on land and water is an amphibian. So they show metamorphosis, which is a very important characteristic of this group of animals. As you see, this is the egg of the amphibian, means frog. It's a frog egg. You can see it has two parts, white and black, as you see. This is the part, this the black part is where the actual animal or the embryo is going to develop. And this is the yolk. You know that they are externally fertilizing animals. They lay their eggs outside the body of the, like, fertilization happens outside the body of the female. As a result, they need to have enough amount of resources so that these eggs are independently able to develop outside the body of the female. So external fertilization is there. And you can see, as you can see in the video, the eggs eventually develop. This is an egg of leaping frog, which is laid on terrestrial habitats. And these eggs directly develop with tadpoles being terrestrial, actually. There's not completely direct development, but tadpoles are terrestrial. You know that tadpoles are majorly aquatic in most of the species of amphibians, but here in this case, it's a terrestrial tadpole. You can see how the tadpoles are wriggling around inside. It comes tadpoles, and tadpoles in majority of the species across the world are aquatic, showing that life originated in water, and also amphibians came from water. But some of the frogs recently evolved frogs which evolved on trees and bushes are shown to even skip the stage of tadpole completely, where they show direct development. Like in Indian scenario, you can think of bush frogs, for example, Rawotsistes and the Pseudophylatus genus of frogs generally show direct development. This is a tadpole of a microhull, an arrowmouth frog. You can see how transparent the tadpoles are. And tadpoles are different from fishes in terms that they do not possess all the fins. You can see that if it was a fish, it would have a fin here called a pectoral fin. It would have a ped fin here called pelvic fin, dorsal fins, ventral fins, and tail fin. But here, if you see, it's only having tail fins. And of course, you can make out it's a tadpole because it has legs. That uh, character comes much later. But however, even if you see a tadpole or a fish-like creature, how can you distinguish a fish from tadpole? Is that tadpoles have just a tail fin, okay, whereas the fishes have a lot of other paired and unpaired fins as well. This is how the adult amphibian looks like. This is one of the amphibian called frog, but however, there are different types. So if you see, as you know, amphibians are organisms which have dual life, that is a tadpole and a middle stage. So there are three groups or three types of amphibians. That is anura, anura meaning a meaning no, ura meaning tail. Tailless amphibians means frogs and toads. Urodila means ura means tail, dila means to bear. Tail bearing amphibians, as you see in this picture, like salamanders and newts. Apoda, a means no, poda means legs. Legless amphibians means ichthyophis, or we call them as Sicilians or Gymnophiana. They're called naked snakes because they don't have scales. Okay, please understand frogs and toads are tailless amphibians, salamanders and newts are tailed amphibians, and these ichthyophis, Gymnophiis, other genuses called apodals or legless amphibians, which look like snakes, but they are really not snakes because they don't have scales. You know that snakes belong to a group called reptilia, which in which they have scales on their body. Now, coming to the question, why study amphibians? Why am I talking to you about amphibians today? Why is it important to study amphibians and their sounds, basically? First thing is they are the most easily available vertebrates around us, of course, other than birds, probably, and fishes, which are in water. Whereas amphibians are easily accessible, means you can easily approach them. They are available all around us. Even around your house, you may find some frogs living, right? So it is much easy to access them. Whereas maybe a bird, it may be difficult because it will fly all the time. Like, you can't approach them. Sounds are not that complex. So if you see birds have a very complex repertoire, okay, they have a very complex sounds. They have syllables and different types of calls, etc. But you see frogs, their calls are quite simple without much complexity. Majority of them vocalize. That means with an average, we can say that 99% of all frogs will vocalize, means they make sounds. That's why studying them becomes easier and interesting. Okay, limited mobility and accessing them, going closer to them and looking at them and investigating them at close quarters becomes very easy because frogs don't move much. For your information, if you have to know, most of the frogs live in a very short, area of occupancy or range, expansion because they are most of the time restricted in their mobility or they have site fidelity. Means they live in the same place most of the time. Okay, so because of that, also, if you go and see maybe what frog you found today, probably that will be there even there in the same place, even if you go and see tomorrow, probably because I've seen followed some frogs and toads and every day I see that they are in the same place most of the time. Okay, so because their range of the total range of territory will be around within 100 uh, meters, or maybe if there's a bullfrog, maybe around maximum 1 kilometer range max. But tadpoles can disperse very easily, whereas adults don't disperse that fast because the mobility is very less. Okay, whereas tadpoles can disperse through water. And one more thing is they're easy to handle and take measurements. Whenever you are doing any sort of study on any group of animals, you also sometimes need to handle them to understand how their body features like size and weight or other parameters may influence some of the vocal characters or vocal properties. For that, you need to handle them. And frogs being tiny and are agile and soft, it's very easy to handle them and take measurements. Of course, sometimes they're too slippery. They may, just slip away from your hands. But otherwise, it's very easy to handle. Unlike imagine thinking you're working on a wolf, maybe to trap them is not that easy as of now, right? Or else think that you're working on a bird. It's difficult to put mist net and get those birds trapped in that mist net. So compared to other groups of vertebrates, this is much easier. Think about it. And they're harmless. They don't bite you. Most of the frogs in India don't have teeth. Of course, some of them have operant teeth, but normal teeth on the jaws are absent. Most of the fish, no, sorry, most of the amphibians or frogs and toads, what we see in India. And one more important thing, why we study amphibians, because they are ecological indicators. Because if there's any change in their environment, they are going to show up some changes in their survival rates or overall on their body features. They may have deformities, etc. So it becomes very important that we study these group of animals because they breathe through their skin. And because they are skin breathers, they are highly sensitive to any changes in the environment and they become ecological indicators. And of course, conservation of amphibians also is possible by studying sounds, how I will tell you maybe in tomorrow's session. But we can come to know what frogs are in a given area by studying their sounds. You know that you can say that, for example, maybe a bird, because a bird may be identified just by the sounds, right? You know that there's a maybe greenish warbler just by listening to the sound, like kiwi, okay? Or if it is kiwi, like it may be green warbler. So same way, among the frog world, if you know that if it makes a particular sound, you know that this is the particular frog. And you can note that for many, many years, and you can maybe one day find out that that particular frog is missing. So in conservation of the amphibians also, overall, I feel by studying populations through non-invasive method, whereas this particular method that vocal studies or acoustic studies becomes a very important non-invasive method of studying populations of frogs, which in long term may help in conservation. Okay, so I've told you why amphibians and why study their vocalization now. And here onwards, whatever I talk, whatever is my discussion will be more about more specifically about frogs and toads, even though I use the word amphibians often, but amphibian to me is synonymous with frogs and toads, which is anura. But I don't want to complicate things. Anura means frogs and toads, as I told you, tailless amphibians. But whenever I talk now about amphibians, I mean frogs and toads here onwards, okay? Because salamanders and Sicilians don't vocalize. Of course, exceptions may be there, but majority of them or 99% of them don't call. So let's move on to the theme, major theme or focal theme of this webinar or certificate course, that study acoustics. Why study acoustics? Why study calls? Why frogs call? First, we need to understand for that, and then we will understand why study their calls. Why frogs call? Does anyone have an answer for this? Let us, because I've been talking for the last 10 minutes. Let's see whether you have an answer for this. Why frogs call? Feel free. I mean, open up. Okay.
Mating purpose.
Okay. For the mating purpose. Very good. Anything else, guys?
Easy to locate.
Easy to locate. Okay. Okay.
Distress and defense.
Okay. Fantastic. Okay. Very good. That means you have some idea. Like, as we make different sounds, frogs also have different vocalizations based on the context. So at every time it doesn't make the same sound. Most of the time, we say that or 90% of the sounds what a frog makes in its life maybe are vocalizing for a female most of the time. Males most of the time make sounds, but we can again go wrong with that. Some species females also call. So males call to attract a female most of the time. As somebody pointed out here that it's for mating. That's correct. It's called as advertisement calls or mating calls. Okay. So does only male frogs call? Of course, as I told you here, male frogs call. It's not all the time true. There are always exceptions in biology. There's also this particular frog. Of course, there are more frogs now. It's called guardian frog from Borneo, in which the females call and the males come in response to that. So females make more number of repetitive calls, and males come approaching that. Then they mate, and after that, male has to take care of the role of the female partner, like carrying the eggs or carrying the tadpoles on his back. Generally, which female does, carrying the tadpoles on her back, like in case of if you heard poison dart frogs from South America, in which females carry their tadpoles and put them into tiny pools inside different types of flowers or plants, which is found in Amazonian rainforest. But in this frog, the males take over the role of the female frog. Okay, so and females take over the role of the male. This is called as sex role reversal. You see in case of birds also sometimes like some birds, females are more colorful. Okay, so there are exceptions. Majority of the time, you know that males are more colorful. Like if you see peafowls, males are handsome, right? Females are little brown. But if you see, there are also sometimes like cases where there has been females which are very bright. Okay, yeah. For example, painted snipes. If you know, if you're into bird watching, painted snipes, females are more colorful, dark, whereas males are dark. Okay, how they call? You know now that male frogs call most of the time and females respond. Exceptions, of course, are there. How they call? So if you see, like us, when do we make sound? Is it while inhaling or exhaling? It's most of the time, or all the time, it's while exhaling, right? As I'm talking right now, I'm just breathing out air from my lungs, which comes into my larynx here, my throat, which is called as larynx. There are cartilages, and these cartilages have also threads or folds called as vocal folds. When they vibrate, as the air is passing, then the sound is produced. Same way, frogs take in the air. There are certain muscles, buccal muscles, which help in taking the air because they don't have any diaphragm or rib cage per se. So they use muscles here and the pressure to suck the lung into, air into the lungs. And with the help of their abdominal muscles, means the belly muscles, okay, they push the lungs and create that pressure and push the air into their mouth back. And this goes into this sac called as vocal sac here. And the vocal sac has multiple layers. I'll show you in the next slides. But this vocal sac vibrates, and as it vibrates, it resonates the sound, helps to communicate in large populations and tell about its presence, so that the female is able to approach them, or based on the context. For example, if it is a mating call, it's for the females to be aware that there's a male and he's waiting for her. If it is sometimes type of a territorial call, it is to say that okay, come on, don't come close. Okay, if you come close, I'm going to sort of wrestle with you. Okay, so based on the context, it can be meaning different things. So this is also the same thing. And one more interesting feature is they can take this air back and forth. If you see, if I talk like this, for example, for next 10 hours, maybe I would be tired and really exhausted. But if you see the frog, for example, maybe a hood yellow bush frog, which I'll show you in a while, it calls almost throughout the night, from evening, let's say 6 o'clock to morning, 5, 6 o'clock. So how does frogs able to achieve this amazing feat? Because they have a very interesting mechanism of shuttling the air between their lungs and the vocal folds. So they can shuttle the same air. Of course, they can breathe through other modes. You know that they can breathe through the skin, they can breathe through their mouth. So they don't have a problem of breathing, because for us, if we don't, to get the new air or fresh air, we have a problem because we breathe only through the lungs. But frogs have multimodal respiration. If you see, frogs can breathe through the skin, their mouth, as well as lungs, as adults. Of course, as tadpoles, they breathe through the gills. So this was the recent paper by Pavlovich et al. In 2025, this year only. He has been able to describe different uh, calls and also about vocal apparatus in frogs. And his research says that vocal cords are not that simple. It's not just like a bubble gum which you see. It has more complexity. It has three distinctive layers. You can see the outermost layer which we see. I hope my cursor you are able to see.
Yes,
Maybe
sir.
are they able to?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So if you see the outermost layer, this is the skin fold. Okay. This is called the gular sac. Okay. Gular sac. Gular means throat. And inside that you have a layer of muscle. You can see that a layer of muscle here. Of course, there are different types. Let's not get into that. Like segmental and inframandibular. And also you have infrahyoid biological terms. Let's not worry. If you are interested, I can even talk about that. Yeah. Inner to that, they also have mucus layer. You can see it's a mucus layer which can secrete mucus. Okay, it is connected to the lower part of the neck or mandible actually or buccal floor. The buccal floor continues as vocal sac mucus or in the interior mucus lining. Then you have muscle. Then you have a gular sac. And also, if you see, there is also attachment called septa, which connects gular sac to this particular uh, in you know infrahyoid muscle. Okay, and also you see there's also a lymph here. There's also lymph present between these two layers, between the muscle and the blood sac. So it's more complex than what we think actually. Okay, and there's one hole. This is the hole. There can be one hole or two holes. Most of the time, it will be a single hole which will open into this open. So air just coming from here will come here and reverberate it through these layers and vibrate the entire gular sac, okay, which resonates the sound. Does it mean that all frogs call? Uh, should all frogs call? No. There are exceptions, of course. If you see, in case of stuffed food toads, which are also called harlequin frogs from South America, these frogs are completely mute as well as deaf. Means they are not able to hear. They are not able to even you know make sounds basically. Okay. Then how do they communicate to each other? So if it is not able to hear, how do they communicate? They mainly communicate through visual cues, okay, visual cues, and also sometimes they may make short clicks which are heard through the entire body. So their entire body has become a receiving apparatus. You know that our ears receive the sound like an external ear and middle ear we have bones, and internal ear we have some sort of cilia, which is called as stereocilia basically. They vibrate and they send the sound. So they have internal ear apparatus, but they don't have eardrums or anything like that. So their entire skin has become receiving apparatus. Okay. And next, if you see Gardiner Sicilis frog, which is from Sicilis Island, you know where is Sicilis Island, near to the east of Africa. Uh, Now, these frogs are quite weird. Scientists were studying these frogs and they found that these frogs produce high frequency clicks. Okay. And their frequencies are so high, like 5,000 hertz close to, and they don't have any tympanum or even middle ear. Then how are they hearing? Because they have internal apparatus, but they found out that the males, produce sounds, and females have to open their mouth, and through their mouth, and mouth is made up of such bony structures which are arranged in such intricate manner. They studied it through scanning methods, and they also recreated using 3D technology, and they found that their mouth is modified in such a way that they are able to transfer those vibrations into their ear through their mouth. No, quite interesting, right? So these frogs actually hear through their mouth, which we can never even imagine about. Like imagine keeping your mouth open and you don't have any ear and you are hearing through your mouth. Okay. And the pumpkin toadlets from South America are known to now completely have lost the ability to hear, even though they make sounds. Interesting. See, males make sounds, but females can't hear. That means they're mainly relying on visual cues. That means evolutionarily, many frogs are losing their sounds also. We don't know the reason, okay? But probably for their environment where acoustic signals may grab the attention of predators probably because they're so colorful. Probably uh, they are losing their sounds in next 100 years. Okay, this particular frog called American green tree frog, which was studied by Mark P, who's a pioneering researcher in bioacoustics from Minnesota. So if you see, he has studied this frog. He says these frogs inflate their lungs. Okay? Whenever they inflate their lungs, it's like noise cancellation headphones. So whenever the sound is hitting the ear of the female inflates her lungs so that some of the frequencies are cancelled out by the lungs, and their ears are able to perceive only that particular frequency what that female is interested in. Okay, so their lungs are also acting as a noise cancellation device. Okay, how you put on your noise cancellation headphones, right? Similar to that. So it is not as simple as we think. There are so many researchers in India, like, which we can do that. There is no end to it because acoustic research has no end, literally, because you can do so many different studies, which I'll talk maybe in tomorrow's sessions. Okay. One more frog. We think that all frogs make sounds and etc. But think about this. This frog doesn't have lung at all. Okay. It has lost its lung only. You may ask me, how does it survive then, right? But as I already told you, breathing is not solely dependent on lungs in case of amphibians. It can also be through other modes, like it's breathing completely through its mouth and through its skin. Okay, because basically breathing means get the exchange of gases. Exchange of gases can happen through any mode. Like here, it is happening through skin and mouth. So this is the first lungless frog discovered. Who knows? Even in India, there may be some frogs awaiting for such discovery. This is from Borneo called as a flat-headed Bornean frog. Okay, flat-headed Bornean frog. See above Kalimantanensis. Okay. Now moving on to types of vocal sacs. You know that they need vocal sacs to produce sounds. What are the different types of vocal sacs? Until recently, means until let's say 2020, we knew that there are only four major types of vocal sacs as proposed by Dulman and Trube and also Koch and Calamendin and many other researchers. Okay, so if you see, they said that if the vocal sac comes just below the throat, we call it as the single subgular or median subgular. Okay? Subgular means throat. I hope you've seen pelicans, which they have a gular pouch, right? Similar way, these also have single vocal sacs. It's called single subgular. Then if they have two of them, then we call it as bilobate. You can see two lobes. There's a notch here. The notch is very deep. You call it as paired subgular. You can see it's very deep here. It's having a groove. And if the vocal sacs arise from the sides, then we call it as paired lateral. Okay, lateral means side, paired means two of them. So these are the different types of vocal sacs. You can ask me a question, why these different types of vocal sacs? Even we do not know actually, because as far as I understand, this is for fitting in their environment, but still we don't have perfect answers. If you want to work, even understanding why different species in different habitats have different types of vocal sacs also will be a fantastic work to work on the acoustic field and vocal sacs overall of amphibians. Okay, so as I told you, Fivovich wrote a paper recently on vocal sacs and their structure. This is in 2025, we have more than 15 different types of vocal sacs now. Even though we had only uh, four types, they have subdivisions. For example, as I told you, subgular. These are not proper vocal sacs. The first three he has written as zero here because these are just skin folds of the lower jaw. So they are not true vocal sacs. As I told you, they should have three layers. Whereas these from 1 to 6 is actually proper vocal sacs. So if you see this animal, it has a single vocal sac. Okay. It can be even semicircular here. This is subgular only, but it is semicircular. It can be C-shaped. It can be anterior. It can be anterior dorsal. It can be tripled. See that. It can be bilobate, external, internal. It can be bilobate and lateral also. And as you see here, this is completely lateral, and lateral and subgular type is also there. Then you can see lateral and posterior, 5C. Lateral and posterior, it goes to the side also. Okay? If I have a video of metribatrical, if there's the time, I'll just show you. The vocal sacs literally go on the side of the body. Okay, it's lateral, but it's going through on the side of the body. We see Nyctibatrachus, the Kempolensis, Kempole. Night frog has similar vocal sacs. Lateral and superior, or lateral and posterior dorsal. And this is also lateral with the fold, subgular fold. Okay. You can see vocal sacs have many, many different types. So it's not only three. Under that, there are subdivisions. These are all subgular types, and these are paired or bilobate subgular. These are paired subgular types. These are lateral. From here onwards, these are lateral types. So you can see it's more complex than what we thought. Types of calls in animals. Let's move on to what are the different types of calls in animals. Okay, so the annual calls are the following types. First one is a meeting or advertisement call. Just giving you an instruction, if the meetings gets ended in next 8 minutes, we have to rejoin this meeting. Please rejoin so that we will finish the session. And tomorrow I'll be talking in detail about how to analyze the sound using Raven software. Today I will just give you a briefing about what is sound and what is acoustic parameters, what we use, what are the devices we use, etc. But tomorrow we'll be doing the practical session. Okay. Yeah. First type of call which we hear is a mating or advertisement call, as we mentioned. So I'll just quickly play some videos you can see, and also you can type in the chat box what type of vocals active is it. Are you able to what type of vocals active is it? Very good. Yeah, subgular type. This is subgular. This is a family of frogs from India called as Rhacophoridae, which includes bush frogs and tree frogs. What is bush frog? The frogs which live generally on the bushes and which goes to higher canopy are called as tree frogs. So they have such type of single median subgular type of vocal sacs. Okay. You can listen to this one. This is called poor yellow bush frog, which has yellow color, and also blue-eyed bush frog. You can see how this makes sound. Is the sound audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, it is audible.
Subgular. You can type what this is called Wayanad bush frog. You can see how the vocal sac is moving. See, it has two different types of positive pressure. This is a two typewriter frog. Typewriter bush frog. Most bush frogs which I showed you just now have median subgular. Now you may think why these bush frogs have median subgular? Because I feel they're calling at a higher elevation, and also they want the sound to travel probably in all that direction because the vocal sacs are so large they can transmit the sound in almost like let's say 270 degrees. So they want all the audience to be hearing because they're at a higher height, right? So maybe the lower side as well as front, as well as some frogs even in the higher canopy, right? This is a tree frog which is called Malabar gliding frog. How is it called, or why is it called gliding frog? Because they glide from higher canopy to a lower canopy. They have beautiful webbing which also sort of gives them aerodynamics to fly. You can hear to the sound of this. You can see the symphony of sound. I recorded this in my mobile. It's so many different. You can also hear some micro in the background. Right? Going to Dicroglossidae called folk frogs, and these are called cricket frogs. They're quite noisy. If you're in any part of the Western Ghats or let's say any part of India, also you hear these frogs. They are most common frogs, and they make very loud cricket. What type of vocal sac is this? Please type in the comment box. What type of vocal sac is this? Very good. Vishal has correctly pointed out. It's a bilobate, right? It's a bilobate subpolar. Yeah, bilobate type. Yes, fantastic. Yes, bilobate subpolar. That's correct. Yes, moving to the next one. That was Sayadri, or yes, Sayadri cricket frog. This is very frog. Type of you think is this? Bilobate only, right? This was the bilobate. Yeah. Think frog. See, diversity. That's the beauty. If this is the Karawalis think frog. Sounds like a common white-throated kingfisher. What type of vocal sac is this? This is a video for CR language R but done daily. He's discovered this problem. In fact, this is called Karawalis pitching problem. Very interesting. What is the vocal sac here, guys? Very good. Paired, it's paired lateral. Paired lateral. Okay, you can see this video.
Is incredible.
Look at the vocal sac here.
The bullfrog is the farmer's best. The color is spectacular.
This is completely lateral.
They are
Paired
simply
lateral.
spectacular.
And Ranix and leaping frogs don't have proper vocal sacs. They just produce sounds to their throat, like the throat. You can see they don't have proper vocal sac. It is not inflated at all. Leaping frogs, Ranix alligator. See, it's not bulged. It's not. This is the Ranide through frogs. We call them bicolored frog, golden rags frogs, and yeah, this also has not a form of vocal sac, but yeah, they have a color here. And it's a fungoid frog which calls like the raindrop. They're all family Ranide. The- This is also bilobate subpolar. Next, Micrizalid or dancing. You can see as it is calling, it's also doing footman. That's why it's called as a dancer or a dancing. And Nyctibatrachid or night frog. Completely it's producing sideways, lateral as well as